Welcome to the Wave.
Okay, let's dive right in. I just got the session opened and I pulled in all of the synth tracks. We are going to go back and finish up the guitar and bass editing. But first I wanted to bring synth in and get it organized so that we can move right into it when we're done with guitar and bass. Very first thing I need to do, because I was in a recording session in here yesterday, I need to come in and make sure I've got my interface selected and change my buffer size. We are going to be mixing and editing, so the largest possible number is what we want. Let's exit out of here, give it a test listen. I'm going to solo this out, and I'm going to not do that. Decrease the volume a tiny bit. Okay, I'm also going to put my headphones on so that we don't get any bleed through on the commentary. Let's see what we got. All right. We have a strong signal coming through. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do here is organize. I'm going to highlight all these bad boys, put them in a group. Call that group Synth. Sub. Oh, not synth, sub. Synth, sub. There we go. All right, what color do we want for the synth sub? Let's go with something crazy bright. Let's say dark pink here, light pink here. Then we've got to go in here and make sure we do that to all of our clips. All right, we're looking nice and pink, and we have our sub correct. Okay. First thing we're going to do, gain stage. Let's unsolo this, and let's go ahead and start at the top here. So we are going to listen to this track. We're actually coming in right above -6. I'm just going to lower it a tiny bit. Oh, start in the right place. It gets a little louder when at the attack point of each note, so I did take it down a little more. I want to listen one more time. Okay, yeah, we're hovering right above, and I mean like right above and right below -6, so that's good. Let's move to the next track. Now, some of these, when they come in, you can already tell that they're just way too loud. This is definitely going to be an example of that. Let's give it a listen. But when you see stuff like this, go ahead, especially if you're mixing in headphones, lower the volume on your interface a little bit. You want to try and protect your ears, and I've had a few like this where they will damn near blow you out of the room. So lower it down a little bit. Let's give it a listen and see how much we need to decrease volume here. Okay, we're like up at -1, so let's bring it down. Okay, right at -6 there, and I don't know if you guys hear it or not, but I already hear some things that we're gonna definitely handle with EQ. Let's listen one more time. So this has quite a bit, we're going to revisit this, but this has quite a bit of static in it. I can't tell if it's an effect or not, but based on what we know and how this waveform came in, I think we can get that out of there, by the way. It sounds like it's in a part of the frequency spectrum that's going to, one, have a lot of other sounds in it, and two, may not be that important for this particular track, so we can probably EQ a lot of that crackle and pop out. But when we got this track, the waveform was maxed out all the way to the top, and it was reading 0 on the fader. So I feel like there may have been a little clipping going on here, but again, it is a harmony synth track, so we're definitely going to be on high blend alert for this, and I think we'll be okay EQing that out. That one's good. Let's move on to the next one. We're really going to be looking for this one. Okay, just a little bit loud, so we'll bring it down some. Okay, awesome. That sounds like we did pretty good. This one looks like the next big one. I want to check out where that peaks. Okay, good. Same spot, right over -6. We're fine there. Let's move to the next one. We need to add a little, well, let's listen right here because these are a lot more dense. Okay, yeah, we need to raise it a few dB, so let's highlight, click. A little more. Okay, we're right at -6 there, and on to the last one. Bringing that one down a little bit, it was just a little too high over the 6. It was close, but it was a little too high. And now the loud parts, or the peaks of these, are almost touching the -6 tick mark. So I know we're good there. All right, now that we've got all that set up, let's go ahead and throw a EQ8 on the sub for sure. And then just in case, because we're going to collapse this and move back into some editing, but I'm going to go ahead and load up each track here with an EQ8. Pop, pop. There we go, that one. Then I'm going to cut the sub off, collapse it, and we're going to take a time-lapse journey down some guitar and bass editing. I will see you all in a little bit.
Vanity life, it pushes you down. You think of a way to turn it around. Do we live our lives being told what to do, or follow our heart? I know that we are rising. I know that times are changing. I know that we are rising. Too soon to fall away. I think of yesterday, yes, tomorrow gone to know. I think of yesterday, yes, tomorrow gone to know. Oversaturated, overcomplicated we are. I know that
All right, let's bring it back to the synth sub and start getting these assets in order. So let's go ahead and see how they all sound in the mix and get a basic leveling of the synth. What I'm going to do for that is pull my mix window down. Just make sure we're in the right spot though. I'll get us rolling. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and just lower those all the way down and bring them in slowly. Let me see which one we have first here. First one up is gonna be track 31 and 32 and 33. Alright. All right, I feel like that eerie one, that long drawn out synth, is going to be the one that I want to bring in first because it sounds like it's going to hold a pretty solid foundation in the world of synth in this track. So let's go ahead and find out which track that one is. That's going to be 31. Bring it back down. We'll start pulling 31 in. We'll go ahead and let it be nice and present right now. Let's check where our mix as a whole is coming in. All right, we're okay there. Let's see which synth comes in next. All right, that's a very, very bright, high-end synth. I'm going to raise the volume a little more for now, just so that we can continue to hear it. But we'll probably do some pretty wacky processing on this one. Let's bring in that third one. That one's in there. It looks like track 34 was about to come in next. And it is. So let's go ahead and bring in 34. All right, and here's where the last synth comes in, and just for sanity's sake, I'm going to go ahead and put that in order in our synth tracks. Yep, that looks good. Let's bring in the last synth. And it takes us right into some guitars that we haven't edited yet. So let's go ahead and start manipulating these a little bit. We'll get, I think what I'll do to wrap up today's session is we'll go ahead and get some basic EQ on these, some EQ on the subgroup, a very, very wide bandpass to encompass the area that these synths are going to live as a whole. Then I'll go through individually and make some EQ moves to try to help everything sit in the meantime. And I'm going to go ahead and do a couple things too that help enhance the stereo field. There's a few things that I've noticed with these synth tracks that I can make a little bit better by doing some doubling and some pitching and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. I think I'm actually going to start with the stereo field. So first thing I noticed is that this long, drawn-out synth track. I'm going to cut all these others off for right now. This one seems to hold a pretty solid space in the song as a whole. And I think it just sounds a little thin coming right up the pipe like that. And again, we know the vocals are going right up the pipe, so we need to try to make the center space in our spectrum as clear as possible for that, excluding, of course, the kick and the snare and some other elements like bass is always very close to center. So let's listen to this again. Very thin. I'm going to check in here and make sure warp is off, and it is. I'm going to duplicate this track. Once I duplicate it, I'm going to pull my mix window back down so you can see this. Here are my two synth tracks. Let's go ahead and rename them. Rhythm synth left. And rhythm synth right. We're not going to take these too far off, but I think we want to throw these right about here. And what you're going to notice if I solo these out is that it's going to still sound like it's coming right up the middle. Give this a listen. And we can definitely still hear that static in there. So the reason that it sounds like it's coming right up the middle, and in Ableton, you have to be careful with this, even with warp being off, because it will still stretch and shrink your waveform when you do this. But what we're gonna do, while it's playing, I'm gonna manipulate only the rhythm right track clip 1 to 2 cents down. And you're going to hear the stereo spectrum on those two tracks widen so that it sounds like there's one on each side and it's a little bit bigger and a little more grand. Let's listen to it with them soloed out. Right up the middle. And they kind of get a little ethereal and spread out as you detune a few cents. We're not messing with semitones here, just a couple of cents. So now I'm going to group these together inside my synth sub. We're going to go dark pink on it. We're going to rename it. We're going to call this Rhythm Synth. Okay, let's go ahead and get a basic re-leveling of the rhythm synth with the track. I'm going to make them a little loud in here so that I can use this fader and just start controlling from here from now on for those. And matter of fact, help with processing a little bit. Boom, I'm going to take that off. I'm going to take that off, and then I'm just going to throw one on the sub. We can process these equally. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up the EQ on the rhythm sub and see what we got going on here. First things first, there are some waveforms happening down here below 100. Let's snap that off at 100. And actually, we know that the rule of thumb for guitars is to put a filter right here at 100. So to help save some of the integrity of the guitar tracks, let's see if we can get a little further up. It looked pretty small down here. We'll see what we can do. I'm going to solo these out so that we can tell what our filter is doing. I've got all the way up to almost right here before I even start hearing any sort of change. So I'm going to bring it up until I hear a change, and then I'm going to back it off a little bit, and that's where we're going to leave this high pass filter. Okay, that little part right there actually does have some audible presence. So I'm going to leave it boop, right there. Just out of curiosity, I want to see if we can find these pops. I think they're in this area, right around here. I'm going to leave my number 3 node there. We're not going to surgically remove them right now. We're just doing some basic EQ on all these tracks. But I do want to leave that there as kind of a reminder point that when we come back in here to do some surgery, I want to look around this general area for that and see if I can take it out and not alter the synth sound too much to get rid of that nice bigness we just created with the panning and the detuning. So let's move on to the next one. I'll probably have to bring this one back into the mix. All right. I think this track actually constitutes another discussion, and I may have that with the artist. These both live in very similar spots in the frequency spectrum. And because of that, they don't cancel each other out, but they're hard to differentiate between when you're listening to the track as a whole. So what I might suggest in this situation is that maybe we lower the pitch of this an octave and see if maybe that is a little bit more conducive to the mix and helps it stand out as a separate part a little bit better. Because right now it just kind of sounds like something is going on in the midst of the synth melody, but you can't really tell what it is. And in order for us to tell what it is, we would have to take the gain over here and bring it way up, way too loud to sit right in the mix. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that we did on the other track, just because we don't want to be going directly up the middle. We're going to make sure that warp is off. It is. We're going to bring it down 2 cents. And then I'm going to come up here, and we're going to do a lot tighter of a panning method on these two. Well, a little more than that. Maybe here. You know what? Maybe like out here. We definitely want some good amount of space for those vocals. Okay, and then let's go ahead, create a group out of this, make it dark pink, and rename it. We'll call it Verse Synth. Let's get that out of the way. And let's come back in here and we're going to re-level it. So let's bring this back down. Once again, we're going to go ahead and make these a little bit over volume, not above 0 though, so that we can take and make use of this fader. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing we did for the other 2 tracks, since they are now in a group. And let's get rid of these processor hogs and have them right here for us to use here. That's about as high as I'm comfortable making them right now. So we'll let those hang, but let's go ahead and get our high pass filter on. I'm not going to solo these out yet because I think this part might change a little bit, but that seems like a pretty safe spot to leave our filter there. Let's get this out of our way now and move on to the next track. That is going to be... boop, 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 boop. All right, that's going to be this funky synth that comes in here. And you know what? I am going to leave that one up the middle because I think what I want to do with this is either some auto pan or some custom pan automation. Come in here later on and keep it out of the middle by putting it on the sides, but have a little bit of movement incorporated in the track, maybe 5 to 10 left of center on this one, 5 to 10 right of center on this one, and then if there is a spot where it grooves with the rhythm, we can move it left to right as the kick and the snare are grooving, and sometimes that facilitates for a real nice effect too. So for that one, we're going to leave it for right now. Let's cut off automation. We definitely don't want to mess with that yet. Let's just make sure we've got a good basic leveling mix with this track and the rest of the tracks. And Command Save. Boop, 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 boop. I'm going to lower it a tiny bit and then we're going to move on. Okay, that sounds good. Next synth track. Okay, this is very similar to this right here. I'm going to do the same thing to it, and I'm going to put them in about the same place as far as my panning goes, but I want to make sure that there are no spots in the song where this and this are playing together. So before we do, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate because I'm pretty sure there aren't. Yep, it looks like we are free and clear. Come over here, make sure warp is off. Take her down 2 cents. Then we're going to pull down our mix window. We're going to bring these out to where these are. About right there and about right there. Then I'm going to group them. Oops. Select dark pink. We will call this Rhythm Synth 2. Same thing we did to save processing power. We're going to move some EQs around and change 2 EQs into 1 EQ. Then we're going to put on our high pass filter. Okay, this is a completely different rhythm synth part, so I am going to solo it out for this filter implementation here. Okay, so it's about right here. I'm going to back it off a little bit. We still saved a good amount of space here for guitars, and when we come back in and start doing some surgical moves, we'll probably free up more space too. We're definitely we can go ahead and do that now. Let's put our little vocal dip in on this one. I'll implement that on our other tracks after we're done here. This is kind of unfortunate because this is a really meaty, nice part of the synths here. Hopefully once we add vocals, we can get a real nice blend and they'll sit together nicely. Just gonna do that right there. Unsolo, bring them back into the mix in a basic balancing way. Go ahead and make them a little extra loud. Okay, good. Command save. Last but not least, before we wrap it up here today, we are going to throw our EQ on this bad boy. Now, I'm going to also leave this one up the center because I think when I bring the vocals in, this looks like a part in the song that is probably the bridge. In fact, it's named Bridge Synth. So it is a part of the bridge, and there may not be vocals here. So I am going to throw my high pass filter on. All right, there's a lot going on the low end here, so we are definitely going to solo this out and listen. I'm comfortable with this right here. There isn't a lot of, there are waveforms down here, but you're not losing too much until probably you get right up to about here. Let's listen and see. Oh yeah, you can definitely hear the change there. And like I said, there's some movement down here, but it really doesn't degrade the sound too much by bringing it up to about here. So let's bring it back in the mix now. Okay, nice. We have basic moves on pretty much everything except the vocals at this point. Obviously, guitar and bass editing and the arrangement will continue to be worked on the same way that we did in the time lapse and the same way that we did in episode 4. The synth is going to continue to be evolved by surgical EQ that we'll do next week, and then other editing moves that may take place off camera. Then we're going to add in the vocals. Adding in the vocals is a real crucial part of the mix, very crucial. So much so that you want to keep your instrumental mix separate from your vocals in some ways. What I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse all my subgroups here, then I'm going to highlight them. We're going to create an instrumental mix group. Then let's go ahead and just make this very easy to spot. We will make it white. When we bring the vocals in, we'll create a vocal group and we'll make that black. Then what we'll do is we'll collapse the vocal group and the instrumental mix group, and we'll add those to a group called Mix Bus. That's the best way I've found to do it in Ableton so far. It's really easy and it works. One really important point here, when you're going to do your instrumental mix, if you don't collapse your group, it will mess up all sorts of things with your layout in here. So make sure when you're grouping things in Ableton, you're kind of doing it at the most granular level. You don't want to give it any room for error. But if you follow those directions, you'll have a nice clean mix. You'll be able to operate and maneuver very efficiently and very smoothly. And it always helps for the end result to be very professional and very nice. With all that being said, we will see you next time for episode 6, moving into vocals. Bye.